So I'm going to say something really cringe and cheesy. Ready? Watch collecting is a journey. Now, if you just threw up in your mouth, I completely understand. But it is, god damn it. Once you start off and you get the bug in you, you start going through a long line of watches. I feel like after 5 or 6 years of really being heavy into this stuff, I've actually taken this whole time to come around to the watch that probably suits me the most. And that is the watch that I have on right here. Let's take a look. Welcome back to the channel, guys. I'm your host, oisinomalley. As always, what am I wearing on the wrist? Well, I'm wearing the watch in question. This is the PAM 587 Marina Militare, limited to 1,000 pieces. Before I get into that, as you all know, sometimes I like to mention some microbrands from time to time. I get a lot of them in the mail. Every now and then a microbrand comes to my door that I actually really like, and this is one of them, the Nove Watches. Now, this is the Atlantean. This is a big chunky monster. Look at the size of that thing. This is really for diving, and it has a crazy lock system to release the bezel and so on. It's kind of cool. But out of the two, I have to say the Marine is the one that really caught my eye. I really think this is a beautiful watch, especially for something under $1,000. Just the slenderness, the design overall, how slim it is. As you all know well, I love a shallow dial. I think it is the sign of a really well-designed watch. I'm not crazy about when you're looking down inside a watch, like a well down inside to look at the time. I hate that kind of thick rehaut look. I much prefer when it's very shallow and very close to the crystal. And this is one of the shallowest I've ever seen. It's actually really, really cool. And it's got that domed crystal over it, which is awesome. Gives a little bit of crazy refraction going on. Very vintage. I absolutely love the way they put this together, and I like the overall aesthetic. It's quite modern or futuristic. Another thing I noticed about both of these watches, and I'd love to know, Nove, if you guys are watching, how did you do the lume? These are the most luminous watches I've ever seen. You don't even need bright lights, just regular light in a room. And next thing you step into a dark room and the lume is beaming away. I mean, normally you'd need like sunlight or a little UV light up close to it to get that kind of reaction from the lume. But this thing just looms up like no other watch I've ever seen before. And the seconds hand looks like it's completely a piece of lume, which is really cool. Extremely legible watch. They have the SW200 movement, the Solido. It's rock solid workhorse movement, and the extra crown here moves the bezel there for timing. What I really like about them as well is that just that super shiny 316L steel look from them. When I was out and about taking some video of them, I just noticed how shiny they were. They were just so reflective. I guess it's all those high gloss spots. And there's another very interesting thing. The clasp has these two pushers either side here. You would expect that to be like a mega clasp or something to release it and open it up. But actually the clasp closes old school like that. You have to pull it back with your finger. These pushers release an extension, which means that you can actually do it on the fly while it's on the wrist. So you don't have to take off the watch, you know, extend it a bit, put it back on to see if it's working. You can actually do it right there on the wrist and release the tension right there. Look, very cool. I've never seen quite that system before. The Atlantean 2 is, hey, it's a big beast of a watch if that's what you're into. One thing I do like about it is the way it hugs the wrist. You see the shape of it there. It just kind of sits, hugs the wrist. you'll see when I put it on, it's pretty damn solid the way it sits. Look at the way that shines, though. It's quite an attractive hunk of steel right there. 300 meters water resistance on this one and 200 on the Marine. Again, the Marine is really the one that I've fallen in love with, and I've actually been wearing this watch around a lot. So check them out, Nove Watches, the Atlantean and the Marine. I'll leave links in the description below. Very cool watches, under $1,000, solid design. Good for them. I like to see micro brands go from stride to stride. It's great to see the evolution of the brand over the years. So moving on to this watch. This is the Marina Militare, limited to 1,000 pieces. Now, I was given this watch from my friend Simone Frollo, who owns a store here, and he doesn't get a whole lot of big guys walking in there. Sometimes he has some American tourists and so on. But the Italians don't, in general, have that kind of big composition like I have, for example, being an Irish man. My wrist is a lot bigger than the average wrist that walks into his store. So he handed me this watch and said, listen, do you want to try and sell it on your channel? You have more chance of selling it to one of your viewers, maybe an American or someone Irish or someone with a nice big substantial wrist. So I brought it home. It comes in a big limited edition box with a scroll and everything, all the information about it. And it's got a different strap as well. This is actually a third-party strap. I actually love this strap. The original is untouched, still in the box. But what happened is I started wearing it around. Now, I always liked Panerai, and they really suit my wrist, of course. But I've owned very few Panerais, considering. And I started wearing this one around, and people started noticing, wow, that watch truly is you. And this is the funny thing. I keep coming back to this point, that sometimes the best judge of which watch is best for you is not you. It's someone who knows you. Maybe your better half or someone in your family or someone who's been looking at you for years and knows your look and knows your style and can tell you what watch suits you best on your wrist better than you can. Now, beyond that, it's actually a really interesting watch. This is harking back to the old military days when they would make these watches for the frogmen in the Italian Navy. It doesn't have the old wire lugs like the radiometers had. It's got the 1940 lugs, which look quite like the 1950 from the Luminors. But it's incredibly simple design. There's no seconds hand. There's no date. Rose gold hands with that vintage look. And, of course, this enormous boxed, domed Hesalite crystal on the top, which just completes the whole vintage vibe. On the back, as you can see, it's fully open, so you can see the kind of pocket watch design movement in there. This is the P3000, an in-house movement from Panerai. It's hand wound and dual barrels, so you get 3 days of power reserve, 21 joules, and the movement is beating at 21,600 beats per hour. It's also got shock mounts on the inside as well, so proper sturdy and hefty Panerai watch, but with that extra little bit of elegance if you want to stare at the back. But the most notable things about this watch are, for one, it's 47 millimeters across. I've tried on a lot of Panerais, 42s, 44s, 45s. They all look okay on me, and they probably look substantial on most guys' wrists. On mine, I need the 47. It's something I've just come to realize. I recently had a 40, I think it was a 44 or 45 in the house. And it was okay, but there was something wrong about it on my wrist. Panerai is supposed to look substantial on your wrist. It's supposed to cover the whole wrist. And I need the 47 mil to do that. Another thing that's very interesting is the crown. It doesn't have that crown guard system, the very recognizable Panerai crown guard locking system on the side. Instead, it has a kind of an old style Rolex crown, which I absolutely love. It's perfect. It cleans up the whole look of the watch. And the dial is a matte black, so it has this kind of dirty brownness to the aesthetic. It's a sandwich dial, so it's placed over a luminous plate. Lume never disappoints with Panerai. And one of my favorite things about it is how those rose gold hands catch the light. I often look down at this watch and I can't really read the dial because maybe it's not loomed up in any way, but the hands are catching the light from maybe a TV on the other side of the room or a candle or something like that. They're reflecting and I can immediately read the time. So it just adds a lot of character to the watch. But putting all these things together, it just really works on me. This kind of worn leather strap look is very kind of motorcyclist leather jacket vibe. The deep kind of brown tones to the whole watch kind of, I guess they just match the hair color or whatever, you know, whatever it is, it just all kind of works. And many people have said it, even people who don't care about watches much at all have said, wow, that watch really looks like it was made for you. But the point of this video mostly is to draw that particular thing to your attention, that sometimes a watch that suits you is not the watch you have your eye on. In fact, that happens most of the time. I don't know how many beautiful watches I've owned over the past 5 or 6 years. I wouldn't even know where to start counting, honestly. And it's taken all of those watches for me to just happen by accident on this piece. And as many beautiful pieces that I have that are frankly a lot more expensive than this and rarer and so on, in the end, this is the watch I should have been wearing all along. So I think it's important that if you're trying on watches, I've said it before on the channel, if you're walking around a department store and they have Omega and they have various different brands, bring someone with you, someone who knows you well, who knows your look, for that second opinion, because they might be a better judge looking at you going, you know what, that watch really suits you. And you might be surprised. It could be a cheaper watch than you expect. You might have a fixation on Rolex because everybody does, and you're staring at pictures on the internet all the time. But when you actually put one on the wrist, does it look good on you? One good example is gold. Solid gold pieces don't fit so well on light complexions. If you have very light skin and maybe some freckles, you should go with steel. That'll work so much better on you. Whereas if you've got sallow skin, or maybe you're from the Middle East or something, you have that nice chocolate tone, the gold is going to sit really well. I'm very lucky. Gold looks good on my arm, but there are members of my family who could never wear gold because they have the lighter Irish complexion. So it's a good thing to know what's going to work, what's the right size for your wrist. It may look good to you as you look down at the watch, but maybe get someone else to take a photo of you from their angle, and you might be surprised how small the watch looks in comparison to you looking down at it. It's a little bit of a trick that your mind plays on you. Watches always look nice when you look down and read the time, but then you see yourself in a photograph and the watch looks actually a lot smaller. So there it is, guys. I hope that was a little bit eye-opening for you. Maybe I saved you some time in your watch journey, but then it's all fun looking for the right watch anyway. It's part of the hobby. Once again, these are Nove watches. This is the Marine, and this is the Atlantean too. The Marine is my favorite, but if you want a big heavy beast weapon on your wrist, maybe you want to go for the Atlantean too. Great watches. Link is in the description below. Go check them out. That is it, guys. I hope you found that interesting. There's one last look at the Marina Militare. Pretty nice, right? Even goes well with this blue shirt. Weird. Thanks for watching, guys. I will see you in the next one. Peace and love.